Call the, we ready? Like to call the Plan Commission meeting for August 8th, 2022 to order. Roll call and declaration of a quorum by Secretary Parker.
Cronin,
Here.
Zagami,
Here.
Ermeling,
Here.
Gerndt,
Here.
Jordan,
Here.
Bumper,
Here.
Kinsnell,
Present.
Maloney,
Here.
and then alternate Dave Deason is not here.
All right, and is Milt online? Anybody know?
No, he's not.
Okay. Roll call and declaration of a quorum by Secretary Parker for the joint, for the ETZ.
Okay, and then I just wanted to state real quick beforehand, just looking again, just double check, but, Mark and Randy just pointed out that they did not receive the email that was notifying them that the meeting packet was completed. But when I look at my, I'm looking at the email that I sent and they were attached, so I don't know if there's possibly a glitch or what would have happened. So, yeah, but anyway, Christensen,
Here.
Cronin,
Here.
Gerndt,
Here.
Hull,
Here.
Bumper,
Here.
and Olson is not here. And so I don't know if that's why Milda's not here, is because if for some reason that they didn't receive it.
So Valerie, I did not receive an email for either,
Really?
for either the agenda or the actual packet.
Really?
I did get it.
I got it on August 4th at 3:30 PM.
Yeah, that's the time it was sent. So we'll have to find out, I'll have to talk to Nate to find out what happened. So,
Okay, moving on. Item 4, nominations and election of joint village and town ETZ committee chair, vice chair, and secretary. This is for the ETZ. I nominate Mark Hall just because I don't want to do any more talking than I already have to.
And I would decline that, for kind of the same reason, actually. I spent a lot of time working on this stuff in advance. It's easier for me to put the input in that way rather than to chair or vice chair. I'm just being honest with you. I'd prefer to spend the time, given my schedule, it's just easier for me to work on the stuff than it is to worry about running the meeting. So I appreciate your thought, but I would renominate Milt if you're looking for other nominations for chair.
I would also, just for the fact that he's the chairman
Sure.
of the township, and he gets all the information, probably we don't.
He probably has a better pulse on what's happening with you guys than we do, so that's how I would feel about it also. But it's certainly up to you. I also really feel guilty nominating someone when they're not in the room.
Well,
That's how I became chair once or vice chair or something of the committee, was I missed that meeting and
You're not
wish to do that to Milt.
Well, that's why you have to.
That's a rule.
That's why you have to be.
It's a rule, if you're not at the meeting, you get nominated.
Exactly.
You might get all 3 seats.
So we have a first and a second by Hall and Christensen for Olson. On the discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Vice chair. It's your pleasure.
On record, Valerie, who is vice chair? Cronin?
I don't,
We were just
I don't think
questioning
we
that,
have
weren't we?
it, I don't think we really have it.
Yeah.
I have it on here. It seems to me it was one of the village
Yeah.
members that was the vice chair.
Steve Minell was the vice chair last time.
Oh,
Oh, that's true. Yep.
Oh,
That's true.
okay.
Yep, Steve.
So how about we nominate Steve?
It is Steve.
I don't object.
I'll second.
First by Gerndt, second by Mumper. On the discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Do we need to take care of a secretary or? Or is that just?
I just assumed it's automatic,
That's what I thought.
unless someone else wants to do it.
I'm fine with just leaving it the way it is. Anybody else have any objection to that? All right, moving on. Public comment period. I have to ask 3 times. Is there anybody online or in the office or in the audience that would like to make a comment? Second time, anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment? Third time, anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment? All right, moving on. Minutes from previous meetings. Item number 5, minutes from the June 13th, 2022 joint PC and ETZ meeting.
This is back on because the ETZ did not take action on it.
Okay. Is that a motion to approve by Christensen?
I'll second.
Second by Gern. On the discussion, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. So carried. Item number 6, minutes from the July 11th, 2022 joint PC and ETZ meeting.
Move to approve.
Motion by Jordan. Second by Gern. On the discussion,
And that's the PC side of it? Or-
yes.
Okay.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So carried. Let's entertain a motion from the ETZ for that as well.
So move.
Second.
Paul and Christensen on the discussion.
There's one, I caught one typo. The item 4, the last sentence where you point out there was no action taken on the June 13th ETZ meeting minutes instead of taking. The last sentence there, right, oh, you just went too high. Right there, right there.
Should be taken.
Be taken instead of taken.
Good, Valerie?
Yep.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, so carried. Item number 7, written communications received.
You getting?
Nothing?
I have nothing, Valerie.
All right, moving on, unfinished business. Item number 8, amendment to section 94.4.08, parent 1 of the zoning code relating to light industrial land use types. This is for the PC and the ETZ. Presentation recommendation by staff.
So the public hearing was held at the last meeting, and the few changes that were requested, if you go to page 37 in the packet, I have made those changes. One of them was to make sure that there was a something to enforce it. So I just referenced the enforcement section of the zoning code. So these are staff suggestions.
Anything else to add, Jen?
Nope, I don't have anything additional. This is just what staff came up with. So if there's any other changes or if I didn't capture it, just, I guess, let us know. This would then move on to the village board if approved by both ETZ and the Plan Commission.
All right, we have discussion and recommendation to the Board of Trustees by the ETZ and the Plan Commission.
Jennifer, what's the current maximum fence height in 9412.03? Is it 10 feet, 8 feet?
Hold on a sec, I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm not sure if it's gonna let me while I'm on Zoom.
The reason I ask is if you reference the Northtown project we talked about 3 months ago, an 8-foot fence would do nothing for them to screen it from the highway. So do we need to modify that language? we say it has to be screened and we can use a fence, but I can only use an 8 foot high fence, we're not solving anything.
I believe in that zoning district, and Jen can correct me, I believe it's a 10-foot high
10.
fence.
But even a 10 foot fence would do nothing.
And I believe our recommendation at that time was that they would put some trees in it,
Right.
that eventually
I
they would
agree.
grow up.
Right, yep. But do we want to look at that? Do we want to allow, if a guy needs a 12 foot fence and that's what would fix it? Is that permitted? Will we entertain that? We just don't want it to be an eyesore from public right of way.
Are you saying it needs to be, do you want to say a minimum so that they can go up to,
I think we just need to remove the maximum height on there for this particular instance. I get it, you don't want a 200 foot high fence, but if the spec is only up to 8 feet or only up to 10 feet and 12 feet is what it takes to do it, maybe we don't have to change everything to allow a 12 foot fence everywhere, but if it takes a 12 foot fence to fix this
But have the
problem.
ability to fix it, you know, I mean, look at Jaeger Auto Salvage, it looks like you're holding King Kong in it.
yeah?
You know,
It's
so-
a 10-foot fence.
I think they have a tall fence, but I also think that sits on top of a berm as
It's a
well.
big It's a 10-foot fence on top of that berm, so.
Is there a process to ask for a variance then on the height or conditional use on the height? Exception, whatever the proper term would be, I don't know.
You would want to take it the conditional use route. But I would have to double check if that's.
Would you want all those steps or just
And there's,
allow what it takes? I mean, not to exceed 16 feet? I don't know.
Well, this language is only applicable to the LI and the LI zoning, correct? It's not,
this language is for the LI land use, not the zoning district itself. If you wanted to change the fencing code, that's a public hearing. That's in a separate section.
Yeah, that's the way the fence is set up, you have the residential fence regulations, and then you have the non-residential, basically the non-residential. So they all kind of fit in, commercial, industrial, all has a max of 10.
So that would be, Jen, that would be something that we can't change tonight, correct?
No, this is in 94-1203 is where the fences are. And we did not, no, we'd have to change that. If you want something done with that one, we would have to bring it back.
Could you just strike the up to the maximum fence height allowed under section 94.12.03 in this and then just leave it?
Let me read it quick here.
Is there a maximum dictated already in that section?
I think with that being a commercial, that fence height for non-residential, that fence height maximum is in that section, so.
Yeah, that's referencing that
proceed
section.
with
You'd
that.
have to remove the maximum in 94-1203.
Agreed.
Because it's always gonna guide it towards to that maximum.
I think the other problem that we're gonna have here is, if you go any higher than a 10-foot fence,
It blows over.
it's a wind sail.
Right.
So you're asking for a shielded fence that is nothing but a huge wind sail, and you go any larger, it's so cost prohibitive to even try to support that fence from not blowing over. I just don't know. I think we wanna do our best interest for the neighboring properties, but you know, what happens if we're on a site that the road is at elevation 0 and the building opposite of Greenhead Fieldhouse, when we had that conversation last time, if the property is up here and the road is down here and you got a 10-foot fence, but you can still see everything up there, you know, we just gotta, I don't know that you're gonna cover everything. It's no different than in an industrial park. If you have a semi-trailer or sea containers or pipe racks or whatever it may be, I think you're just trying to cover the clutter, feel that you're gonna probably see stuff inside the fence, no matter which way you look at it. So,
Again, you make it taller, you make it more expensive also because you gotta have a smaller distance between the posts.
you're right.
Resist the wind force.
Not only that, your posts have to be larger as well for the support.
That's possible, yeah.
And concrete in versus just pounded in.
All right. So we good with that? What's your pleasure?
I would move to pass this on to the Board of Trustees for approval.
First by Jordan,
Second.
or motion by Jordan, second by Mumper. On the discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. So carried. We need a motion from the ETZ as well.
So move.
Motion by Hall. Second. Second by Gurnt. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So carried. All right, item number 9, discussion on removing commercial completion.
Motion to adjourn
We
ETZ.
had a chance at 10 o'clock.
I thought,
Or 10 minutes, now it's 20 minutes.
was there not another item on here?
Nope,
My apologies, Mill.
Mark.
Mark.
Mark, or Randy.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the ETZ.
Second.
First by Hull, second by Mumper. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. So carried. Sorry, gentlemen. Item number 9, discussion on removing commercial completion surcharge fee for all commercial new and additions and instead requiring development agreements on all projects.
So I took a look at the ordinances that talk about the completion surcharge. And the way it's written, it just references the fee schedule. So we can handle that at the board level by making an amendment to the fee schedule. So we would be just asking for a recommendation to remove the completion surcharge for commercial properties only.
Yeah, recommendation to the BOT to remove the commercial minor projects and major projects completion surcharge fee from the village fee schedule and instead require development agreements on all commercial projects.
Who's gonna manage and who's gonna write the developers agreements?
We talked about that last time between Emily and I. We have a boilerplate that we have gotten from the village attorney that we're already using. And we will be working on a spreadsheet. You guys had asked us to bring those before you. So we will have, it'll be basically myself and Emily.
Okay, and John, that basic outline of the development agreement, you and Emily would negotiate with those particular applicants based on their particular situation?
Yeah, they're pretty standard. They basically just go with the project. So at the end of the project, they're done. So when Roman signs off on basically the entire site being done, then it's null and void. We've used these on new constructions for the last year or so. So we have one already with Aldi's and Caribou Coffee, and have gotten some suggestions from their attorneys on the documents. And so we have the blessing from Attorney Edie on that too. So it's just basically, it's pretty standard, but it makes them have to read it and sign it. And it has more teeth if something doesn't get done.
Do you have a sample copy of that development agreement you can provide to us?
Yeah.
And then is that agreement negotiable? I think it was Mr. Jordan mentioned something about that. So is it, this is what it says, page 1 through page 5, these are the terms, or developer A says, well, we're not doing number 3. We'll do all of them but number 3. Is that negotiable?
I think you guys are overthinking it. It's not that They're pretty standard.
If we saw it, it would help.
It basically references the zoning code all over. So basically it's reforming the zoning code into a document that they read, review and sign. So it says, you will build such and such site plan that you have submitted that's been approved by the site plan approval. If you don't, by this, it's sunset clause within so many years. So it's not negotiable in the sense of the zoning code.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this was basically to change the enforcement methodology, not to change any context of what anyone was going to do in development, correct? So
Correct.
in the past, we had you put in a fee, and the fee wasn't necessarily enough to stop somebody from walking away, whereas with the development agreement, we have the ability from a legal standpoint to enforce that document, correct?
Correct.
Site plan review is done by staff. If it's okay and they don't need any exceptions, then it's good. But if it has to go to before you, if they want some exceptions, you guys are the exception authorities.
So
And
it's
that
not
would
really
be-
a negotiable document necessarily,
Right.
I'm not understanding it in that respect.
Mr. Dunn?
So that's, I guess, what I was trying to interject here is that the terms of this are actually outlined, or they're set forth in the approval process of the site plan. So it's not that these are done on the side, they're not different than what the plan commission sees or staff sees in zoning code. So those are all laid out at the time of approval of the site plan.
And the documents are actually attached to it. All the documents that get approved as part of the site plan.
Thank you. One question I have, Jen. If there's a change in site plan during construction, is there a negotiation as far as whatever a material cost doubled or whatever it may be? There's negotiations if they come back to the planning commission.
We would have to amend that document. We've done that before, and then you
Okay.
attach the new plans. So if it comes before you, so say they need to make a change to the plan, that would get attached to that. So that we knew that there was a change.
Anybody have anything else? What's your pleasure?
I'll move to recommend to the Board of Trustees to rescind the completion surcharge fees for major and minor projects in the village fee schedule and instead incorporate execution of a development agreement for all commercial industrial projects, new and or additions.
Motion by Mumper,
Second.
second by Jordan. On the discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, so carried. All right, moving on, public hearings. We have item number 10. Project number 2022-0239, Michael Roma, 3906 East Everest Avenue, Weston, Wisconsin, 54476. Requesting a conditional use permit to allow a proposed detached accessory structure for residential use where the structure would exceed the maximum allowable square footage of 800 square feet by 1,120 square feet within the SFS Single Family Residential Small Lot on property known as 4906 East Everest Avenue, PIN number 192-2808-201-0998, and the unaddressed parcel to the west, PIN number 192-2808-201-0995. The building is proposed to be 1,920 square feet. I will open the public hearing and presentation by staff.
All right, so the applicants are proposing a 32 by 60 square foot accessory building on their property at 3906 East Everest Ave. They had vacant property next to them and the building would have been put right on the lot line. The lots have now been combined at this point. For the public hearing, they had been two separate, but at this point, I do have the recorded document, they're combined. So we've fixed, that's been taken care of. The property is zoned single family residential small lot, which in that zoning district, they're allowed a maximum of 800 square feet. Zoning code does allow a conditional use application to be requested in order to exceed that. The building would be 1,920 square feet total. There's two other accessory buildings in the proximity of where the building is proposed, and those would be removed in this as replacement. Any questions or comments from Planning Commission?
Does it meet all the setback?
It does.
It
Mhm.
does.
Yep. It's behind the front of the house. It meets side setback. It meets, setback from the house, separation distance.
Anybody have any other questions?
Oh, yeah, what is the height of the proposed building?
17 feet,
What is the height of the existing building?
about 17 feet.
And then how does our zoning code look at, it talks about height of principal structure and height of accessory structure, but are we measuring from grade? So it shows that the grade where the accessory structure goes is 6 feet lower. We ran
So
into
the
this
peak
last
of
month.
this garage would be below the peak of the house.
I completely understand the math, Emily.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is, if they're both 17-foot structures, we'll use 20 because mechanics are simple. If I'm at 1268 here and I'm at 1262, if I have a 20-foot high building here and a 20-foot high building here, say I had a 30-foot high building here, I've got a 6-foot height difference in the ground level. So are we measuring from grade up 17 feet, or is the overall height above sea level to the top of the structure? How does our zoning code read?
It would be from grade.
From grade. So we would have no problem that with, that would change how we looked at the last structure then, right? So at the lowest point of grade, highest point of grade, I'm looking at the one from 2 months ago from Canoe Street. The guy's yard went way down and it was like 15 or 20 feet lower in the backyard than the front yard. But the height of the roofs were almost the same, but because of the way the landscape was, in the backyard, it was like a 27-foot high structure, right?
I guess I'm confused what the question is.
So are we measuring to the top of the roof from sea level? You know, say they were the same height.
No, from grade. And that building was that tall.
Find something.
That's tall.
Yeah, like from the street, you would see it fine,
Yeah.
but if we're measuring from grade, are we measuring from 27 feet down, or are we only measuring from 17 feet down on the front yard? That makes sense? Because the backyard, that guy's
Looking at it
house.
like it was be a walkout, Scott.
Right.
Like it was 2 stories on the back section.
You know what I mean?
You're not looking at that, you're not seeing that when you're driving by.
Right.
Unless the neighbor in the backyard would be able to see it if it's a,
You know, would you have to state front and back like on a walkout, like, you know, a single
Average grade,
average grade or something? Okay.
I mean, if it does taper, the average grade would be, and then the mean is the average of the roof, not the peak. It's kind of the midpoint of the peak of the roof.
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned 17 feet
Yes,
as a height. On page 57, it references 12 feet.
that's wall height.
It says building height.
And if it's a Menards building, they also buy the wall.
Okay.
Okay.
That's where it's confusing. Some places go by the wall height of the building rather.
I just noticed it said building height right on the quote, so.
All right, public comment period. Is there anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a public comment? You wish to make a comment, sir?
No, not really, I guess.
Okay,
He's the applicant.
You guys pretty well covered everything I was looking at, so.
all right,
I have one question before we move forward. Go back to that site plan, Michael. You combine the lots, is there a capability of building anything else on that lot? Scott, is that a yeah or no?
In terms of accessory building or,
Well, no, not so much accessory building, because we're already exceeding that on there, right? If ultimately he's taking 2 lots, or is it just that small partial lot?
so it's that small narrow one is not buildable anyway.
Oh, okay, so that's the one you combined.
Yeah.
It's not a full-size lot.
No, it's
Okay.
6/10 of an acre.
Yeah, I get it.
Too narrow to put anything on.
all right, I'm gonna close the public hearing. And then we have recommendation from staff
Staff recommends approval.
and discussion and action by the plan commission.
Do the 5 tests? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you for reminding me, I always forget that.
Just one more question for Emily.
Mhm.
In their site plan, does it state that they're going to build that building at that grade, or is it possible that they would fill it to 1268 and then put up the building?
From my conversations with the applicant, they are building it at grade.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, we're ready to go through the qualifications. All right, item number 1, is the proposed conditional use consistent with the comprehensive plan, this chapter, and all other plans, programs, and ordinances adopted by the village?
Yes.
Yes. 2, the proposed conditional use in its proposed location and as depicted on the required site plan will not result in a substantial or undue adverse impact on nearby property, the character of the neighborhood, environmental factors, traffic factors, parking, public improvements, public property or rights of way, or other matters affecting the public health, safety, or general welfare, either as they now exist or as they may in the future be developed as a result of the implementation of the provisions of this chapter, the comprehensive plan, or all other plans, programs, and ordinances adopted by the village.
Yes.
Yes. Does the proposed conditional use maintain the desired consistency of land uses, land use intensities, and land use impacts as related to the environs of the subject property?
Yes.
Yes. Is the proposed conditional use located in an area that will be adequately served by and will not impose an undue burden on any of the improvements, facilities, utilities, or services provided by public agencies serving the subject property?
Yes.
Do the potential public benefits of the proposed conditional use outweigh potential adverse impacts of the proposed conditional use after taking into consideration the applicant's proposal and any requirements recommended by the applicant to ameliorate such impacts?
Yes.
Yes. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve, the project with the exceeding 800 square feet as presented.
Motion by Pincinel,
Second.
second by Gerndt. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Moving on, we have item number 11. Project number 20220044. Dan Higginbotham, Clover River Land Company, 2625 Northwestern Avenue, Wausau, 54403. On behalf of property owner Darrell Well, 223565 Ranch Road, Ringgold, Wisconsin, 54471, requesting a rezone from RR5 Rural Residential 5 acre to SFL Single Family Residential Large Lot of 17.5 acres and 16 acres of vacant land to allow for the division and creation of 19 residential parcels to consist of approximately 1.19 to 2.96 acres. These vacant parcels are known as PIN number 192-2808-241-0999 and PIN number 192-2808-241-0994 and is located north of Schofield Avenue, abutting the eastern border of the village of Weston. I will open the public hearing. Presentation by staff.
All right.
Or applicant.
Staff can give it a shot to start. So you guys saw this a couple months ago, originally with a rezone request of rural residential 2, following the future land use comprehensive plan adjustment last month at the village board. SFL, single family large, has been added to the single family residential unsewered area. So this is a rezone request to go to single family large for this subdivision, which creates a proposed 19 lots ranging from just over an acre to just under 3 acres. The plat, preliminary plat for the Arrowheads Estate First Edition is another item on this agenda later on. There was a slight tweak, so you guys do have that printed in front of you. And we can talk that later, but if you wanted to see the layout, it is in front of you there.
All right.
We do have the surveyor and the landowner in the, I was gonna say in-house, but in here.
Okay, I guess we'll do public comment period right away. Dan, do you have anything you'd like to add? Just please state your name and address for the record.
Dan Higginbotham, 2625 Northwestern Avenue. I think we've covered things at the last few meetings. If anything comes up, they have questions on it, I'd be happy to address those questions.
Thank you. Any other comments online or in the, anybody else online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment? Third time, anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. We have a recommendation by staff.
Staff recommends approval, or recommends recommendation.
And discussion and recommendation to the BOT by the planning commission.
I have a question, I guess, in regards to, I almost had the impression the cart's in front of the horse because we don't have the road issue resolved. And I always think of roads come first and development comes second. But I guess when I read this, I feel like we're doing the development and we'll figure out the road later.
Well, there'd be a development agreement with the subdivider on infrastructure. The proposal that's been kind of floated out there by the town board's chairman, Al Christensen, was one of us does snow plowing one year and one of us does snow plowing the alternate year. You know, that would be like a, you know, horse apiece kind of thing, you know. And we're not, nobody's committing to doing additional work necessarily that, because right now the only way we get in there is on the street in Ringgold and then go into the streets in Weston when it's all said, when the subdivision is constructed. So I think the bottom line is that there's gonna be an agreement worked out on it. Now, this is the rezoning we're talking about right now. Rezoning's not gonna get them approved to put the subdivision in until we approve the plat and approve the development agreement, so. I mean, if that's something you want done beforehand, I suppose that.
I guess I just read the sentence at the end of it and said, what is not clear is who, village or town, would be responsible for maintenance of the street extension and.
Well, we end up being responsible for the stuff inside the village boundaries. Ringo will be responsible for, and when I say responsible for maintenance, I would say that would just be surface maintenance, patching, construction of the road, or not construction of the road, but taking over the, you know, the overlays and replacement of that street then later on when it's needed. Those are clearly gonna be within each municipality. The thing that's up for question would be the snow plowing issue. The way I see it, I don't know if there's anything else that really needs to get addressed that way. But I think, again, it's pretty clear that there's a line, there's a boundary line as to where everybody's responsibilities start and stop.
Okay, I just said, at last meeting, you said you hadn't spoken to him yet.
No, we had not talked for the last meeting, so.
And that clears up my question, so, thank you.
Keith, just to follow up on that, so snow plowing is alternated?
Well, that's, the proposal floated out there, I guess that's subject to board approval, how we do that. But that seems a pretty good compromise, it's in my opinion. Hopefully it's not confusing to everybody. One year they'll call Weston with questions, and the next year they'll call Ringgold.
Yeah, so then ultimately then road maintenance 100% is in the village responsibility?
A part that's within the village of Weston boundaries would be ours. The part that's in town of Ringgold remains theirs. That's the existing subdivision right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Another question I have, there's no concern in regard to emergency services and or confusion?
That would be probably something to be discussed as the plat process goes through. I don't know what confusion.
They would
They're
have a
gonna
Ringgold
respond to an address, right?
Yeah, they would have
Is
a
it gonna be
Ringgold
Ringgold
address.
That's where I can see the confusion starting.
But with emergency services, that comes through the CAD system down at county, and that will come up with the area that of respondents. So Safer would automatically be paged for any emergency in that area.
Okay, yeah, and again, I wasn't aware of that. I just thinking if I think I live in Ringgold, I'm not calling Weston, I'm calling Ringgold.
We have a representative from Safer here tonight. Marty may be able to address that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it should come up just like Scott said.
Yeah.
CAD system.
I think the biggest confusion will be the snow plowing.
I agree.
I think one community is gonna say, no, wrong group, call that one. It'll go back and forth until finally, he's got the odd and he's got the.
Me personally, part of me almost thinks it's in the village, it's our responsibility, we should just do it. And that's just my 2 cents.
That was the original From Public Works Director, Michael Wadowski.
Yeah, we do already turn around at Arrowhead Estates. We plow Schofield Ave, and that's the first road that the plows can turn around and come back west. So I guess Keith's point, that was kind of my initial thought is, you know, we already go to that street anyways to turn around. So if one truck goes in there and does these streets quick and comes back out.
You lift your plow up so you don't plow that going in.
Yeah, we can lift the plow, but maybe don't plow Ringgold streets. Or we just, either plow down, don't salt or whatever for that first little block, do ours and come back out.
Or, I mean, I don't think that subdivision is huge, just ask Ringo if they want us to do it all. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean.
Good gesture.
Maybe they want to annex into the village.
Who does, police service there?
Would be the county in the town of Ringgold, but Weston, Everest Metro would be in the village out there.
So is that gonna be confusing when they got a Ringgold address?
It'll be a dispatch.
Still 911 dispatch, yeah, it comes up.
But yeah, they'll know who they gotta send.
Okay.
I just think having it done 1 year by one and 1 year by the other, they're not gonna know who to call to grumble at or say, oh, you missed my driveway, or, you know.
I agree.
You know, I don't know as if, I mean, it sounds like a kind of a neat idea, but I'm not sure if the residents are gonna know who.
How about a negotiated rate, Keith? That you.
Well, that's the other option,
You just pay that every other year. If you negotiate that it's swapped out, maybe you pay and it's just easier for the customers to call one place.
I mean, we do the plowing in the town of Weston already. And, you know, we charge them for the time we spend. You know, we've got a DOT set rate for our equipment. You know, every year we give them, you know, this is our labor rate, cost of, you know, a yard of salt. And after each snow event, we give them, or every month we send them, you know, the bill of this is what we did. So we could do something like that too with Ringo.
That would make more sense than every other.
If we're gonna do the whole subdivision, I think we'd wanna have something.
If we did the whole subdivision, yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like I think we can come to terms on that, so finding there's no other issues there, is there any?
I mean, if bad gets to worse, we just plow what's ours and be done with it.
I agree.
So don't we still have to, so going back to that's an interesting, that's kind of like East Nick Ave, right? Only some of that is ours. So if we just plow what's ours, don't we still have to offer access to our residents that live there? So if there's a foot of snow to get into your subdivision, I don't think we can just plow what's ours. Right? Maybe you don't have to plow the whole street, but you have to plow a way in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably part of
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
That's what we've been saying. We need somebody to get in there. For us to get in there, we have to plow that
It just makes sense.
into the area.
Maybe you could negotiate with Ringo to do the whole thing and be done with it.
So considering Keith's discussion with Ringo, I would like to make a motion that we approve this rezoning request and forward it to the village board.
I'll second that.
Motion by Jordan, second by Gert, I'm sorry. On the question, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it.
I hate to go back, do we need to do those 5 questions again?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thanks, sorry.
Questions on everything.
But do I have to pull back my,
Actually, this one only has 4.
Yeah, I took that. Yeah, this one,
Alright, so do that, to withdraw your motion.
yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Joe initially made the motion.
I'll withdraw the motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
Motion to withdraw by Jordan, second by Gert. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Alright, let's do the determination. Number 1, is the proposed rezoning consistent with the comprehensive plan as is required by Wisconsin statutes?
Yes.
Yes. Does the rezoning further the purpose and intent of this chapter?
Yes.
Yes. Does rezoning address any of the following that are not properly addressed on the current official zoning map? Number one, a mistake was made in mapping on the official zoning map. That is, an area is or has developed in a manner and purpose different from that for which it is mapped. If the reason is cited, it must be demonstrated that the discussed inconsistency between actual land use and designated zoning is not intended, as the village may intend to stop an undesirable land use pattern from being perpetuated. Number two, factors have changed, such as the availability of new data, the presence of new roads or other infrastructure, additional development, annexation, or other zoning changes, making the subject property more appropriate for a different zoning district. Number three, growth patterns or rates have changed, thereby creating the need for a rezone.
Two only. So, yeah, well, one is not applicable.
Correct?
Two is, yes.
I would say three could apply as well.
Right. 2 and 3.
You can choose to, both of them.
2 and 3. Number four, does the proposed zoning district maintain the desired consistency of land uses, land use intensities, and land use impacts as related to the end rounds of the subject property?
Yes.
Yes. All right, I will entertain a motion.
Motion as before.
Motion by Jordan,
Second.
second by Gurn. On the question, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Number 12, public facilities needs assessment. Public facilities needs assessment that supports a village park and recreation impact fee on new residential development, replacing the village's current park fee to correspond with requirements of sections 66.0617 and 236.45, parent 6, parent AM, both of Wisconsin statutes. We'll open the public hearing. Presentation by staff.
So I can start out on this. Basically, if you look at the public hearing notice for this item on page 70, you're going to see that both the village board and the plan commission are going to be holding public hearings on this. So the plan commission is holding the public hearing on the facilities document and also on the changes that are requested for chapter 94 of the zoning code, because by state statutes, your responsibility is the zoning code changes. The board will be holding a public hearing on the chapter 74 subdivision regulations next week at their meeting on Monday night. So you will also be asked tonight to basically make a recommendation on those to the village board. So this is something that's a little different than what we normally have going on, just because the changes that are needed to be made impact both of those sections of the Code of Ordinances. So at the meeting last month, we've came to a conclusion on the fee. So it was decided that we would look at a $300 per single family residential unit fee. Currently, that is $244. So it would go to $300 and it would be called a park and recreation impact fee. And then based off of talking to Mark Mark Roffers, after he kind of looked at this further, we set the rate for the duplex and multifamily units to be the same. And that would be $250 per unit. So the document is redlined with some changes, just basically because the fee was called something different. Prior to that, we were looking at 2 fees. Now we're just doing that one fee. So he made some changes to the document to reflect that. We did some updating of the population numbers, but essentially what the impact needs assessment does is it provides the documentation that's required to set that fee. Back in 2018, the state law changed and you had to do a public facilities needs assessment in order to continue to collect the parkland dedication fees. So this would allow us to change it. The board would be looking at updating that schedule of fees to those amounts next, next Monday too. That would be on their agenda. I do have the sample changes to the ordinance, trying to see where that starts. So if you go to page 95, that kind of outlines the different changes that are being suggested for the zoning code and for the subdivision ordinance.
All right, is that all, Jen?
Yeah, unless you have any questions.
We have.
I do. Page 96, section 2, paragraph B. Date May 16, 2016 is listed. Is that protecting a particular development, or why that date? And
I think that's the date of the original approval of that, of the subdivision ordinance. That was when it was recodified.
okay, so we missed that on the first go around. That's why it's redlined and underlined today.
I believe so, yes. Some of these changes were things that have been in the hopper since we first started bringing this forward back in 2019, so.
Page 98, the section 74.7.03 developer agreement, full bottom half that paragraph is stricken. Is that?
If you look at other parts of this ordinance change, that's actually kind of redundant language, so it's taken out. There's other provisions in there for the development agreement to address public works, public infrastructure needs in the developments.
Perfect. Page 100, paragraph November. See the word street trees was added. So the developer is required to maintain street trees forever. After your yard landscaping. I think the village maintains some of that stuff now, right? I know in February I watched I guess it was like March, I watched a village truck cut the trees in front of my yard.
What was, so what, I guess, what's the question, Jim?
We added required construction maintenance of street trees. Why are we maintaining, why is the developer maintaining street trees forever?
I think that's just until it gets turned over, the dedicated roadway and everything gets turned over.
This section is dealing with development agreement contents, so it would be defined in the development agreement as to when that, how long that maintenance may take place. There's a reference somewhere else in here about the option for the developer to deposit the fee to put in the trees initially. I think those are things that we've talked about doing in this ordinance for a while.
But I'm just concerned with the maintenance words here, maintenance of street trees.
So that would be defined in the development agreement, how long they would be required to do that.
Okay.
I don't think that's a change to the ordinance. I don't, just the red line stuff is what's being.
Well, we didn't have to maintain street trees before, we added that now, so why, that was my question.
I think it was just missed in there as a item, you know, the landscape buffer yard, landscaping, or, you know, all those other things were called out specifically, but a street tree wasn't.
Okay.
But I guess, yeah, again, to that point, this is just during that, you know, phase when it's still under the developer's control and not yet turned over to the village.
Very well. No further questions.
Anything else for staff? All right, hearing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing. And the recommendation from staff.
Staff is recommending approval.
And discussion and recommendation to the Board of Trustees by the Plan Commission. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ermeling,
Second.
second by Zagami. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Ayes have it. Number 13, discussion and action on Arrowhead Estates First Edition preliminary plat.
So this is the preliminary plat that goes with the rezone that you made a motion on earlier. There has been a slight adjustment to the plat since the packet went out, and that is what is in front of you printed off. The change is between lots 27 and 26. Due to some stormwater planning, they canted the lot line a little bit, but both lots still meet dimension standards and lot acreage. So that would be, the one that's printed in front of you would be the plat you would be approving for the preliminary plat. Or I'm sorry, recommending to the board for the preliminary plat. So there's, just to recap, 19 acres ranging from just over 1 acre to just under 3 acres. These lots would not be connected to water and sewer. So this is the preliminary plat as part of the subdivision process. And as we discussed, maintenance would be the village for the roads and plowing to be determined. Now, there's 4 conditions that have been added to the recommended motion. This is Plan Commission's opportunity to add any conditions you wish to see for the plat. What you say here is what the developer or the subdivider has to do. And after this, there's no other opportunity to add any conditions to the subdivision.
The only question I always at these cul-de-sacs, are they big enough?
Yes, they would be built to standard. Michael can clarify if there's anything further on the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, but, I guess now we do know, we make sure they're big enough, so, emergency services can get in there and turn around.
You got some pretty big equipment there.
Yeah.
What is the radius on that? Yeah.
That's okay.
It's 50.
60?
60.
That's just the right of way, that's not how wide we're paving. You're not gonna make it 60 feet.
I'm seeing, based off what I'm seeing on here, it looks like 60 feet to the edge of the pavement, not the rail.
Yeah, there's the right of way.
That's right away.
Oh, it is? Okay, my bad.
A question.
Go ahead.
Why couldn't be these cul-de-sac connected to Schofield Avenue so the ambulance and fire truck can get in this area faster?
The Mountain Bay Trail causes issues. They wouldn't allow an additional a crossing over the Mountain Bay Trail.
Is it the railroad too?
And
I think the railroad is more the issue than the.
Goes back to the railroad still.
The railroad won't allow it anymore.
Even though they're not utilizing it as a railroad, they don't want us to cross it.
No, it's the state does not, in the county, when that was done, they tried to close Windsor Street from crossing because we allowed a crossing at the school. That was a big, the county was real adamant about not allowing any more crossings on that Mountain Bay Trail.
We traded the original Callan Avenue intersection for the entrance to the school district. That was something that came up after this, the school decided to locate out there.
Right,
So-
but they wanted to close off Zinzer because we were gonna have one there. And then we did the Allen interchange thing there instead. So it's.
I thought the DNR was handling the bike trail, not the railroad.
They are actually.
It's owned by the.
And neither one of them is gonna give another crossing over there. Now, there is a driveway that crosses that trail. And whether or not that can be negotiated to become a street someday, I don't know. I guess we talked about that with Dan and Daryl, when they came in and talked about the subdivision at one time.
Well, I think we're talking about the life of the people, we're not talking about, usage.
Or there's a possibility perhaps that this could someday extend over to, the street that's in the, Caribou Acres
Peninsula Lane.
subdivision. What's the name of that street?
Peninsula.
Peninsula. That may, they may have some remote possibility of happening, I don't know.
And wet there.
Pardon?
Isn't it kind of wet between those two?
I don't think so.
High and dry.
Okay, I thought for whatever reason that was why they didn't want to come in.
When we did the River Point subdivision, we put a culvert underneath Silver Creek there. So
Okay,
the culvert's already there. We tried to negotiate with the landowner to the west of the subdivision, west of the proposed subdivision, and he wasn't having anything of it at this time, but maybe there might be some future hope. One thing, if I may speak.
Yeah, go ahead. Just state your, one more time.
Dan Higginbotham, 2625 Northwestern Avenue. Could you bring up the conditions again, Val, that were?
Richard.
One thing I'd like you to consider is condition number 1, requiring parkland dedication fees. Daryl, who's sitting here, donated 2 acres of land to the village for the Silver Creek kayak landing along the Eau Claire River, which is all part of the contiguous farm at River Point subdivision, Arrowhead edition, Arrowhead first edition, everything except the piece in the middle that Heck formerly owned. So it's nothing that has to be discussed tonight, but just a consideration for future thought. Because Daryl donated that land to the village for the park, for the kayak access, probably 10 years ago.
So just real quick, if I can dovetail off of that, if you look at the fees that we are looking at collecting instead of a land dedication, what are we talking for the fees? Just a ballpark number.
$5,700.
So $5,700, and they donated 2 acres of land. So, 2 acres of land is considerably more than $5,700. But we're trying to get $5,700. It's probably not even the money, it's probably just the point.
There'd be something put in the development agreement that would go to the village board.
Well, how about just number 1 is gone?
I would just suggest taking number 1 off.
Yeah. No
We're
fees.
recommending that to the, I mean, ultimately it's the board's decision, but we could have that, put that in your recommendation that you would rather them not pay that fee because of the donation of the kayak.
Yeah, I think you just want to clarify why you're not requiring it.
right.
Okay. Before we get too far along here, any other comments from the public online or in the audience in regards to this matter? You could step up to the microphone and state your name and address, please.
Jason Witzling, address is 223-950 Arrowhead Trail. My only point in comment is the plat, which I guess I don't think was online for review, but the one that had been presented, thank you, the one that had been presented back in April. Number of the lots that would border the river, while they plat at over an acre or acre and a half, a good portion of that is below the riverbank and non-buildable, and really, at least from my perspective, makes the usable portion of the lot smaller than the way it's laid out. Just a point to consider. I mean, the way the current portion of Arrowhead is laid out, all of the lots, I believe, are at least an acre and a quarter. Certainly usable area that's not below the riverbank on the east side of the subdivision. Whereas when you look at this, a number of those lots, if you look at what's really usable above the riverbank, would decrease the size of the usable size of the lot. So,
all right, so very good point. Thank you.
As a counterpoint to that, the River Point subdivision, if you look at that was developed in 1996, I believe it was, further west near Caribou Acres. Those lots ranged anywhere from 28,000 to 40,000 square feet, including the land that extended over the riverbank. And those have been on well and septic, and there have been no issues since 1996 for the last 25 plus years. And this land was all preliminarily soil tested for, class one, I don't know what you'd call it, class one soils are very permeable soils. So there certainly won't be any issues. There's certainly plenty of lot width. We're looking at in excess of 200 feet of width on most of the lots. So certainly there's plenty of land for house, septic, and well without, prior to the riverbank.
Thank you, Dan. All right, is there any other comments from anyone in the audience or online? All right, hearing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Recommendation from staff
Staff recommends approval.
and discussion and recommendation to the BOT by the Plan Commission.
I would agree with striking number one with an explanation as to why, given the past donation.
I agree. I would agree.
I just want to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was so quiet. I didn't even hear it. All right, I guess if we have a motion, by Zegami.
Considering the item, removing the item one.
Okay.
Can I ask a
Second by Ermeling on the question.
Are they requiring, are you requiring street trees on this?
That would be determined in the development agreement.
I guess I don't know what the code calls for in this case.
It would be-
I know that most likely it's gonna be a rural street section. It does call for landscape trees or street trees, and so those are things we have to work out in the development agreement. I would suggest maybe we add a requirement to have this, street maintenance questions for snow plowing resolved as part of the condition before final plan approval. With the town of Ringgold.
I just wasn't quite sure with what we just went through with street trees. If the rural setting, you're still gonna be required to have trees in the right of way. I'm not quite sure. Ultimately, Dan, I'm assuming the design, we haven't seen a design on this, or I haven't seen one. Is this gonna be ditching?
Yes. Well,
Stormwater?
MTS is still in the midst, and I haven't seen their plan, but yes, I would assuming ditches and stormwater. I think the preliminary plan, Gary, can you page up just a little bit? I guess the other way, sorry.
No.
Go back to the subdivision, please. The reason we changed lots 26 and 27, which you aren't seeing on here, canted the lot to the east a little bit, is because the stormwater, I think the preliminary design is for the stormwater to come southwest there, because the railroad, there gets to be quite a large ditch along the railroad, along the Mountain Bay Trail as it goes to the west over to Silver Creek. So I'm assuming that's going to be the primary avenue for stormwater. So that's what the preliminary discussion's been anyway.
I have two questions real quick before we vote on this. Number one, says one of the conditions on here was to utilize CBUs for mail delivery. Is the rest of that subdivision utilizing CBUs, or they, how does?
Postal Service.
Dictates that's dictated by them.
It is.
We're still waiting on the Postal Service to make a decision on that. Mark Thompson's been trying to get a hold of them, but they have been pushing CBUs. So he's still trying to figure that out. According to him, even though it's going to be Ringgold, it's going to be
Central boxes.
CBUs, central boxes units?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can answer Casey if you want.
Oh, no, I want to
Because it's a huge pain in the butt.
Yeah, I want to have more initials. That's what I want.
$30,000 I got in mailboxes.
And then the only other question I have, back to Mr. Zegami's, did we reach out and talk to the DNR or the railroad about crossing? Did we at least approach them and ask? and the only reason I'm asking is the last time that anything of this, it's been years that the tracks have since been torn out, so I don't know if the situation's changed or.
I guess I can speak for off of Northwestern, yeah, Dan, you probably stand up because you probably have some education on this as well. When the city of Wausau was trying to cross the end of Kent Street to bring their sewer and water, they wanted to put a road out to Northwestern so you could jump over to the soccer fields. For the one crossing, they wanted six crossings. Was it 5 or 6, Dan?
I think, yeah, it was.
They wanted to shut down.
Large number of crossings.
They wanted to shut down that many downtown Wausau to give them the one.
No kidding.
Yeah, the railroad people are not easy to deal with. They are not.
I just thought I'd ask.
No, it's like literally entering a foreign country. But I've had to set up a crane on a rail line before. Like, it's like going into a foreign country. They dictate everything. You dictate nothing. They decide what you can or can't do, and you have zero leverage. You literally do exactly what they say, or you don't touch their property.
No, I had a lot of experience with them, and the last year I was working with her, she was great help. And especially we got her involved with the bicycle and pedestrian. And she even guide us where to go, how to do it, to have less problem with the railroad. So it's depend who you're working with and what you're asking. And I think in this case, railroad doesn't have a lot to say. DNR has more to say.
I think
because they don't own it anymore.
They do own it. They do own that.
But they didn't get involved with from Mesker to Ross was the problem, and DNR got involved. They didn't even get involved in it because Scott Enterprise, they would have had the equipment on the railroad right away. And railroad never complained about it. Until DNR got involved in it.
Yeah.
They said, you're not gonna do anything unless you move everything out. That was it.
Yeah, and because they allow the DNR to have control for their past, but they have that exclusivity that they can take the rail back at any time they want, is what I was told. And Dan, you might have to comment on that as well.
That's exactly right, because it's a rails to trails, so it's at any time it could become a railroad again.
Okay.
That was gonna be my comment. From what I understood, the state actually had bought that from the railroad, but you're saying no, that they can. I know we bought rail, which makes a lot of sense. But
When I first started surveying in the 1980s, we were actually, Chicago Northwestern was actually selling land. They had vacated the right-of-way coming from Antigo south to Deland, but they've since done it about face, so it's like pulling teeth at this point.
Because the reason we couldn't cross is it was the county and the state, because I can remember Mr. Spike, I think his name was so angry at this meeting because he said we should have put in a condition that you cannot cross any more crossings.
All right.
I think based on our previous experience with that whole situation, I don't think it would even be, it would just be.
I just wanted to ask, that's all. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. I think it was by Zagami, second by Ermeling.
Do we
Did we
have
put any other conditions on that?
Well, there's the four.
Yeah.
We talked about
I thought there
striking
was
one.
that we would have the road.
Snow plowing agreement with Ringo.
Yeah.
Street maintenance.
Was to strike item 1.
Okay, and that was part of Mr. Zagami's motion, correct? Yes. All right. Anything else on the question?
EMPD and Safer, they have to approve the plan as well before it moves forward, right?
Yes.
And I believe that Keith wanted to potentially add another condition for the snow plowing agreement to make sure that was squared away.
Street maintenance arrangement, I guess, would be what we want to have an agreement for. I would suggest adding that.
So we need to amend the motion.
If you have
Well,
Yeah,
What is the motion?
second on it.
Isn't it right now agreed it's every other year?
No.
Isn't it done?
That was we talked about some other things here tonight. Other options. So I guess we want to clarify what the option is gonna be.
No, I second it. Can I amend it? To include?
Correct. Yeah, because I think we'd have to then vote on the amendment and then
Right.
the original
Yeah.
motion.
Like to make an amendment to include the road maintenance issues is
I'll second that.
straightened.
All right, so an amendment to the original motion by Ermeling, seconded by Zagami. On the question. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? You guys have it. So now on the original amendment, or I'm sorry, not the amendment, the original motion to approve this by Zagami and Ermeling. Any further on the discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So carried. All right, item number 14.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Discussion and action on Hare Springs First Edition Final Plat.
All right, so Riverside Land Surveying has submitted the final plat for the first edition of Inner Springs. So this is the northern portion above what they're working on right now. It would be a total of 75 lots, which would be 34 single-family, 6 duplex lots, which would work out to be 12 units, 28 condo lots, and then the 1 large multifamily lot to be planned out at a later time through site plan. And so Plan Commission and Village Board approved the preliminary plat for this last month. And so now it's the final process, final plat before Plan Commission to be recommended to the Village Board via the resolution that is attached to the packet.
Any significant changes?
There is no changes.
What's your pleasure?
I'll move to recommend the Board of Trustees approve resolution number 2022-016, approving the final plat of the Hidden Springs First Edition.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mumper, second by Gerndt. On the question?
I got one. I know we just talked about it on the other one, but why if the post office decides what type of mail delivery they're going to have, why do we need to put it in the thing that's what it's gotta be?
I can explain that.
Okay.
Public area right now, or? Because of snow removal and the turnout lanes and for safety or traffic. So it has to be in engineering.
Is it showing on your plan?
It is in the civil plans, not on the plat.
So we wouldn't see it here anyways.
What was your question? Why does that have to be?
Well, why do we have to put, unless it says to utilize CBUs for mail delivery? And someone here earlier had said that it's the postal service that decides how this mail is going to be delivered. So why do we need that in our official action? We'd have nothing to say about it.
Well, you do, Barb, and here's the reason why. The post office makes a decision like this, or the postmaster central does, right? Like Heath has explained a little bit. They make a decision in Madison and then the local guy gets involved. This kind of happened in Misty Pines as well, Keith, where they want to change and the post office says, well, the village is supposed to call us ahead of approving the plat. Okay. We had CBUs down on KK, they wanted turn lanes for safety, right? Subdivision was completely done and then they told us we needed CBUs. We said, well, where are we gonna put them? Where are we gonna put them? So they said right on the side of the road. They've been hit twice already. So there's a reason why they're doing it. It's like he said, you go into Swiderski subdivision, multifamily, there you pull in, there's a separate little mail room where you can pull off to the side and get your mail. It's mostly for safety in these they feel that the postal person is stopping in one spot. They're more efficient. It's less breaks, less maintenance for their equipment. So they feel that they're more efficient having everything in one location.
I think to answer your question, Barb, it's because they are drawn into the civils and designed and engineered. It's just to ensure that we're all on the same page.
Okay.
That the developer knows the CBUs.
If the
Correct.
developer wants it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good that we're talking about it up front, because if all of a sudden Heath gets his, we approve the plans and there's no turn lane here or something, or that he doesn't know about the CBUs, the subdivision can get approved and there's no turn lanes. And now we got issues, right? So I think that's.
Developer does not want it.
No.
Let's be clear.
Okay.
But so we've learned a lot about it, and it is a good thing, and the turn lanes are a good thing. It's very expensive, but it's also on your property, so there's so that mailbox is going to be on the street property, it's on so it's good to know.
Not gonna get-
The post office is requiring it, and Madison or Milwaukee is who's requiring it, so we don't want it, the village may or may not want it, and the local postmaster doesn't even want it. He doesn't even respond, so we're also doing it in Clover where they're a little bit, but Mosinee postmaster is different from the Clover postmaster, from this postmaster. And some of the postmasters are bucking the system and they're getting away with not doing them, but this is the way that I don't know if it's Madison or Milwaukee, but they're saying, we're not gonna deliver mail to your subdivision if you don't use CBUs.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I'm just wondering why we had to dictate it if it's.
I think it's just a formality.
Well, and here's another one, Heath. Whose is it? The developer buys it, puts it in.
Yeah.
And I said to the guy he goes, well, it's yours. I go, mine? What do I want to maintain this thing for the rest of my life? And then what, do I have to put this in my will that somebody else is gonna take care of this thing?
Actually,
I don't want the thing.
in Clover, the way they did it is 1/64 of it is owned by the homeowner. So if someone runs it over, then yeah.
Wow. All right, so we have a motion.
4 pages to sign just to get a mailbox key in Clover.
So we have a motion on the floor and a second. Motion by, was it Mumper?
Yep.
Second by Garen, correct. Anything further on the discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So carried. Number 15, discussion and action on certified survey map to dedicate a portion of Connie Lane as right of way.
Jen, do you want to explain this or you want me to take it?
It's up to you. Both of these CSMs are actually kind of follow the same reasoning, so I know you were involved with a lot of the negotiations to get the road right of way acquired. So I don't know if you want to take it.
Yeah, so what started out as negotiations just ended up becoming a recommendation by our attorney to go through circuit court, actually get what he calls a declaratory judgment to have 2 outlots that were part of the Wandering Springs West plat. I believe it was 1999. Get those outlots, which were noted to be reserved for future right-of-way, but still remained in a developer's name. And then there was another complication with one of the lots being partially sold to a neighboring property owner by the prior owner and did not have really the right to do that. So I guess in the end, we have two separate outlots here that are being now put as, or dedicated, or proposed to be dedicated as right-of-way for the, to the village, I should say. So this also came up as a question about access to the property to the south. I don't know, we don't have a map showing that, but there was a request put forward to the Plan Commission
by a neighboring property owner, Joe Musnuski, in the middle of Connie Lane between this outline, which is on the west under number 15, and then another triangular piece of property on the east corner, the southeast corner of the subdivision that would be added on to Old Costa Lane. And not with the uncertainty of who had responsibility or who had the ability to allow street extension in these outlots. The effort was made then to get these declared to be dedicated to the village. So that has been accomplished. So these two CSMs, if adopted, would accomplish that transfer to the village. And the property owner interested in potentially vacating another right-of-way that's been provided for in the plat. He had been working on getting the proper signatures to have that right-of-way discontinuance considered. And he needs signatures of all adjacent property owners. And he's not able to get that right now because Mr. Tappy actually has the right to say yay or nay in this case. And at this point in time, we're unsure that any of that right-of-way or that all that right-of-way could potentially be discontinued. So that's a side item to this. I guess I'm just saying by getting these two outlots transferred to the village, there is now documented access, assuming they're adopted by the plan, or recommended to be adopted by the village board from the plan commission. These will then become these will be transferred to the name of the village for right-of-way purposes. And the item of the future consideration of a discontinuance of that right-of-way for Dominica Street is a separate issue then to be taken up at some other time potentially.
I thought maybe this was gonna solve it.
Well, it doesn't solve it yet. And I'm not sure that we're recommending that it be solved either.
So if I'm understanding this right, moving this forward to the BOT gives Mr. Tappy access to the land that he just purchased, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So if I'm hearing this properly, Keith, that gentleman that was here a few years back wanting his driveway access was coming off of, wasn't it the future for Dominica?
Right.
That's still not handled?
It's still, right now it's been put in his court. He was instructed how to get signatures under the statute. And he needed 2/3 of the signatures that were then within a half a mile, I believe, of the property. And which amounted to like maybe 3 properties or 3, I guess it's 2/3 of the frontage, I'm sorry. It's a complicated way it's written, but it does require the signatures of all abutting property owners. So he needs a neighbor across the street, himself, and he needs the property to sell.
Okay, so the highlighted yellow just for, or highlighted blue, that's being dedicated? Or what's the situation with that? Okay.
That's just a reference map, how that was originally divided.
Okay, yeah, it's okay.
That's just location.
Actually, that 33 feet that's on that blue parcel was the part that was transferred to the owner of that lot, who became the owner of that lot. That's outlined in blue. That was Joe Bushka.
Okay.
For what it's worth, okay?
So Joe feels he owns that, or is that?
Oh, it's, as a result of this action,
the right of way.
it's
No, he's
coming right of way.
Okay, very excellent.
Both sides,
Correct.
right? On the other side too.
33 feet off the blue highlighted parcel and that triangular trapezoidal shaped piece there on the east side.
Mr. Tappy, do you have a comment you'd like to make?
Yeah, so we are not signing off on releasing that easement that Gary's asking about until a plat would be approved. But we told him we would work with them, but until the plan commission and the village approve a plat, we're not gonna release it in case the village would say you need, you know.
You want your access points.
Yeah, I don't think, we have done our concepts without it, but nothing's, we probably won't bring that we were thinking that we bring it this fall, but we might not do that.
Well,
just doesn't pay to vacate it until we know that the village approves
We
it.
don't want to give it up either, right? I mean, over all this time, I've switched sides on this, and it's not our issue, number one.
I'm upset about
It's the landowner and the builder. That's whose issue it is. And we can actually make this work, just a little bit of land and let that driveway come in on a very severe 90, but they're all over the village. We don't need to give them all that and then have no access in the center. For whatever reason, I think we gotta hold on to that as long as we can.
You know,
And potentially whoever goes in the back, it's up to them.
I struggled with that when Stan was here that night as well. He was the developer of the property and project, and he built the home. He knew where the right of ways were. He knew it.
Right.
So,
No, we're good here.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
This particular one has no impact on current, there's no construction anywhere around this intersection, correct? Or am I looking, oh, you got the old cost.
How about the western one number? Okay, so there's two separate items here, so.
Correct.
15.
Moving on to the future.
Yes, I guess you want to take them individually.
The vacant one is the Connie and Mary Lane intersection, correct?
So. So yeah, the Connie and Mary Lane one's over here.
And there's no homes, no barn, shed, nothing at that's vacant land.
Correct.
But there is not vacant land at the Mary and Old Costa, correct?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a shed or something that popped up on the survey somewhere over here. Yeah, right there.
And the CSM shows an encroachment.
Yeah, there's a shed right there. It's hard to see on your screen.
and Keith, just to ask you, that gentleman on Acosta right there, that's got his driveway off of that, he understands that his shed is potentially on there? Or does he?
We haven't approached them yet, I guess. We want to take action on these things, I guess, before.
Yeah, I'll be notifying him. It just came up when we got the CSM.
Just a point of order here. Let's try to get this one with issue with Connie Lane addressed, and then Old Costa is the next item on the agenda, so. Does anybody have anything else on, any other questions on number 15 on Connie Lane? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval to the Board of Trustees to draft CSM to dedicate a portion of Connie Lane as right of way.
Motion by Jordan.
I'll second that.
Second by Gerndt. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? So carried. All right, now number 16, discussion and action on certified survey map to dedicate a portion of Old Costa Lane as right of way.
So, question, Keith, again on this, so that gentleman knows that corner piece that he's getting, is that in his deed? I mean, is this a surprise, or Jen, whoever can answer that?
So I have to look up to see if they even got, I didn't get a chance to look up to see if they even got a permit for that shed. And what was laid out there. This little piece has always been an outlot. So it would have been infringing on, would have been on Stan's property crossing over anyway.
So somehow Stan had these outlots or whatever, and they just never got recorded as. Just never got recorded.
Well, he indicated in the plat that they were
Designated.
Used for future right of way, but they were not transferred. And then didn't necessarily agree that they were transferred. And so we were negotiating, trying to acquire them. And it led to this, just asking for a declaratory judgment by the court.
So was Stan paying taxes on these parcels?
Mhm.
Okay, well,
It's one that we expect.
yeah,
We go back and look to see if it was legal.
Yeah.
Because after a certain amount of time, you get it. If you pay the taxes.
yeah.
Well, now on this one, we had the right of way. And that guy should have.
It's the same situation, it's just that there was no other adjacent land that got transferred somewhere else. So this little triangle was part of was shown on the plat.
It was originally shown as being right of way.
To be dedicated, it was shown to be for future right of way, just like the other one.
Have we had any contact regarding that shed yet or no?
Again, we just received this, like, once we have taken action on this, we'd be following up.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just received this from Tim Vreeland, so I got it right before I gave it to you guys.
I just wanna make a note that I'm gonna go on my phone just to see if I can see if that wedge is on the maps or not. Does you have a problem, anybody have a problem with that?
See if it's where?
You can only see.
I got it.
It's on the map.
You did? No, go ahead. Oh,
The certified survey showed it as future dedication.
okay,
So Weston took the action to make it now dedicated. And that's what they're asking for approval for.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
All right,
Move to recommend approval of the BOT, or to the BOT, the draft CSM of the dedicated portion of Wilcox Lane as a right of way.
motion by Darren. Second by Jordan. On the discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, all opposed? So carried. All right, staff reports. You want to take them separately or together?
Together.
All right, items number 17 and 18, July 22, staff approved certified surveys, maps and sites, and July 2022 building permits.
I'll move to acknowledge items 17 and 18.
Moved to acknowledge by Zagami, second by Mumper. On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? So carried. Miscellaneous 19, project updates, Weston Avenue design and reconstruction.
I did send out a email to the plan commission, Friday. We received the 60% plans for the, west phase last week. That was from X to Ryan Street. We had a meeting last week also with the DNR regarding the, wetland disturbance for the east phase, primarily from Progress Way to, County Road J. We have a follow-up meeting with them as well as their stormwater, specialist to go over the, I guess one of the reasons for larger wetland impact is due to the size of the ditches, and the ditches are there for the stormwater quality, so we're trying to get, I guess, those two parts of the DNR to talk to each other and help us figure out the best way through that, I guess, area there. And I guess, I don't know if you have other questions, but
I have a question.
Sure.
What, refresh my memory, what was the initial budget on the east end?
the east end. I don't know if we ever had it, I'd have to look back to see how we had it broken up. I know we were always using about 20 million, kind of for the X to J portion.
Okay,
I don't have the segments, I guess, memorized exactly of what.
sure. No, I just thought I'd ask. I didn't know if it was broken up into, so from Ryan Street out to, how many miles is that?
Ryan Street to J, I believe is what, 2 miles, and then X to Ryan, I think is 1.75.
Okay,
Ryan Street, yeah, roughly the midpoint.
okay.
What's our current estimate right now?
Right, I just,
25 or 27?
No, it's I think it's,
I thought, what's the current estimate of the total project? I thought you said 25 the last meeting. No?
I believe that's what I thought.
Looking up.
Did that email you sent, Michael, did that include sewer, water, everything, or is that just the road?
No, that's water and sewer.
Okay.
Actually, more 80 pages or 170 pages.
Yeah. 177.
Oh.
Yeah, but this cost doesn't mean anything really until they finish the project and put it
Oh,
out.
Yeah, I mean, the east estimate right now is at about 9.3 and,
And 7.9.
yeah.
Oh, okay, so let's say it's 8 and 9, and 17 million is what we had now in the most recent estimate. So we had 20 million, I believe, was our budget estimate at one time.
Okay.
So would you be able to figure that
Extavon.
two numbers?
Oh, we got, I'm sorry, we have Extavon Cal, so there's 2.6 million for that part, so. 2.6.
Well, so there's Esteban Canal, Von Canal to Ryan, and then Ryan out to Jay.
So it's about 20 million, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's at 60%?
7 point.
Can you add another 40% to that? Would it scale that way or not?
No, it just means the plans.
No, that's,
Plans are just at 60%.
So, and the estimates generally have a little, there's elements that haven't been designed in yet, so there's some, I guess, contingency or
Fluff.
some fluff to try to account for those details that aren't there yet.
Did the 60% design include rerouting the utilities on the east end?
It includes the utilities being installed. If there's some additional land purchases, there might be a little bit of a increase, but it includes the total length of the utilities being installed. I mean, again, that's one of those details, the number of fittings or hydrants, number of manholes, it's kind of estimated at this point.
Okay. Anybody have anything else on that? All right, subsection B, Metro-wide housing study.
So I gave you a link to the housing assessment public survey that has been out for probably about a month. I do have a meeting that is scheduled with the group tomorrow to kind of go over the results to date that they have and talk about some of the stakeholder interview findings they've been doing. They do have a public meeting date set for the first public meeting on this topic. It's at the council chambers at the city of Wausau on August 17th at 5 o'clock. And then they will have another one in early September and one in late October. Their goal was to have one kind of in our area, either Kronewetter, Rothschild, or Weston. So potentially, I think the only one we could probably do would be late October if they pick us. But so I'll find out some more, but they're continuing to move on with that. So if you have not taken that housing assessment, you can go to that link and take it.
Okay. Any questions for Jen on that? Subsection C, comprehensive plan update.
Sean has his RFP done for his corp, and he will be sending that out. So we hope to have results for the next meeting so we can start on that project.
Yeah, he did send it out and proposals are due back at, I believe it's August 31st.
Okay, so we'll have something for the next meeting.
Yep.
Is that something that, I know at the last BOT meeting when we talked about using ARPA funds and there was some master plan items on there for the parks, is that something that would be incorporated with that?
Yeah, he included I guess 3 parts, a cost for doing just the corp itself, a master plan for Kennedy Park, and then I guess a separate proposal for the master plan for Prohaska Park is how it got sent out. So, and then it can be a pick or choose, award just the corp part, do you award just the corp and Kennedy, or do you award all 3, or corp and Prohaska?
Okay.
So he's getting cost proposals for all 3 elements, but not all 3 have to necessarily be approved.
Sure. Anybody have any other questions? No? TID one activity.
Not much to report there at this point. President Mark and I had met with a local, commercial property owner about some potential contacts. When we might be interested in some land, we thought might be interested in some land. Sent out an inquiry to them, but they didn't express any interest necessarily. So I didn't really want to follow up perhaps. As far as TID 2 goes, Kristen Fish indicates that she's expecting a development proposal to be coming forward from a developer. She didn't disclose to me who it was or where it was at this point, but be expecting something here in the next week or so, I think.
No parcel,
I'm sorry?
like not here, not right here. No. She wouldn't say where?
Well, it'd be in TID 2.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But in terms of
Gotcha. Okay.
who it is and which particular parcel, no, she didn't say. I kind of have my suspicions as to who it might be, but I guess I don't want to say anything without knowing.
Okay.
I don't know, Jennifer, do you have any other special things to mention related to TID 1 or TID 2?
No, but we have been working on basically the request for proposals for the site that you're sitting at, the municipal center. So that should be ready to go to the board. I think you said next week, right,
Yeah,
Keith?
I was gonna mention we're putting the finishing touches on a request for proposals to go out to developers to make, present their vision of what they might do with this site, and the decision on what would happen with it would then rest with the board at the end of that. So timing on that right now is proposed to be taking a look at those proposals during the month of November and potentially making a decision by the end of November as to what would happen. So Kristen's been helping us on that as well. So I guess other than that, I have nothing else to add then on those two items.
Well, that's exciting to hear. There's some movement. TID 2. Site plans currently being reviewed.
So today, Emily issued the approval letter from the forest. So that went out, and then we are working through the building addition at Wausau Supply. And it also sounds like you may be seeing the West Fest plan unit development coming back through, because they've had some issues placing the building on the current foundation. So Emily had said they would be looking at potentially starting, I believe, another building on the site instead of the one with the foundation.
They might actually be doing the lot below it as well, bringing that first. So they're still in the planning stages.
So they're gonna have to tear that foundation out.
It hasn't been determined yet. They might not be able to use it, is what I'm hearing, but they're still working through it.
Announcements, commissioner remarks.
So this is just a reminder of the special meeting, that workshop that 4 of you are signed up for. I do have it noticed already so that, because there'll be 4 of you, so there'll be a quorum. So that's just a reminder there.
All right, thank you. Jim?
I have none.
Barry? I have none.
None.
None?
Nothing? I have nothing to add either.
Is Dollar General gonna have a grand opening? Or it's open?
It's open already. They never sent anything. You all will be receiving it for Aldi's, and that I think will be the end of October.
They normally do a soft opening, so maybe they're doing a soft opening and they'll get the bugs worked out and then do a grand opening.
I was in there on Thursday.
Oh, you were ready? Okay.
My sister wanted to go, so we went.
Yeah.
Yeah, please send those out, because I would love to attend
And does Aldi's have an ETA yet?
Yes. They are tentatively have a tentative date for basically they're gonna do a grand opening, but just like with officials and that at the end of October. So you should be getting notification of that and an invitation. They asked for your email addresses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next regular meeting date, Monday, September 12th, 2022 at 6 PM. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Ermeling, second by Lumper. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. Thank you, everybody.
Dave Deason missed a short one.
Oh.